a healthy discussion in my feeds back and forth on this story. This is something I posted early on in the weekend, but someone brought it up late on Sunday. It turned into a larger discussion back and forth on the whys. I'll talk about my thoughts on the whys in a moment. But the headline for story number 5, Maryland governor vetoes slavery reparations study, says states should focus on action. So that's where it turns into sort of where it's a little squirrely. But Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, vetoed a bill that would have established a commission to study potential slavery reparations in the state. In the veto letter, Moore acknowledged the legislation efforts, but argued that the issue has been extensively studied over the past 3 decades. Essentially, we don't need another study. He emphasized that the need to focus on actionable measures such as narrowing the racial wealth gap, expanding homeownership and supporting black entrepreneurs, and addressing disparities in education and food security. Working on things that are direct case of, if you want to make things fairer for minorities and blacks, let's work on these things, not so much handing out cash. The veto bill was a top priority for legislative black caucus in the state and the largest black caucus in any state legislature at all. The caucus expressed deep disappointment, stating that the veto blocked historic legislation aimed at addressing these harms for enslavement to address things in the moment now, as well as to the past and the actual history. The bill passed both legislative chambers with veto-proof majorities, which was amazing. Discussions about potential overrides are underway to basically pass it anyway. Can they actually get past this veto? Can they override this veto and make it into law regardless of Governor Moore's talks? The decision comes amid national debates on reparations. States like California and New York are playing this up for quite a while. They've had a lot of money in play for these things, and a lot of people in those states who have been pushing for this for a while, but not quite the way to work it out there to basically make it an address on the legacy of slavery. We'll see what happens for those. Although California was not a state and New York was not a slave state, they still have issues on the books for these things. Advocates argue that the studies further are necessary to make sure a consensus and groundwork are built for the thought process of reparations. Others believe the immediate action is required to address existing disparities. Just do stuff right now. A package of plans and policies are in the next legislature that Governor Moore is basically putting into place to address these racial disparities directly. That is not a actual reparations bill. These are going to support black-owned business, put more money into historically black colleges and universities, and initiatives to promote economic equity. Now, my take on this one, like I said, this turned into a discussion on one of the chats I have with some folks. If you remember me talking about the In the Black podcast and Big O and the folks who do that one, you should check it out. Go to look, search In the Black podcast and check that out. Look for their clips on YouTube, see what they're doing back and forth. But he brought up the question saying that, and he lives near the area, so this is something he's been watching for a while. He said it was interesting, and many people commented. My comments, 2 things on this one. Wes Moore has been one of the rising stars in the Democratic Party, and people want him to run for president. They want him to run for president. This is beyond the guy that a decade or so ago just came out of the Army, wrote a book about 2 guys named Wes Moore from the same spot, one essentially being a gang guy and him himself, how they went to 2 different paths and their meeting of each other and what that turned into. This guy is a serious player in politics and seems like a basically good guy and a good governor doing good work. And for most cases, in the partisan matter, going back and forth, people can't seem to throw anything at him that can really tarnish him from the right side, from the Republican side, because he gets stuff done. They'll find something if he runs for something larger, but he gets stuff done. Now, he says he's not running for president. He'd be a young candidate going forward, going to take over, the party, if you will, going forward. But I say 2 reasons why this didn't work out. He may believe what we've basically said. Reparations, the actual reparations, spending money for the past sins of other people to pay people now, is something he doesn't quite believe in, as in it doesn't actually fix anything. He thinks putting money into programs or putting effort into programs for the disadvantaged, for minorities, is something good. Not just saying, here's a check to make us all feel better. It's a sin that, is pretty much there, but the way to address that sin in reparations is not worth the effort. Or maybe he does believe in reparations. Maybe he believes in all these things, period. But he actually is running for president. And he knows that reparations is going to kill his actual chances. He keeps saying he's not running, but he keeps going to the places where people who run for things show up early in life. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he's actually running and doesn't want this to get in the way of what's going on and wants to make sure he has a way to back away from the reparations being a question for him. Or maybe he truly believes that reparations are not the way.